like to introduce everybody to Lana Tomkinson. You're in New Zealand, is that right?
I am in New Zealand, in South Island, in Christchurch.
Yes, beautiful. So I can only imagine it's getting cooler this time of year.
It is, definitely. This week we felt winter is here.
Yep. Yeah, so we can appreciate that in the Northern Island. Yeah. what that must feel like. Lana, thank you for joining us today. Sorry that if you see my eyes going like this, it's just because I'm looking at you on the Zoom screen.
Yeah.
But I was really excited when you and I got together and the little conversations that we had. Obviously, you've picked up on some of the things that I've shared around sleep, and sleep is such an important tool that we have for our well-being. And really, the conversation that we had was really exciting to understand how important sleep is for us to be at our best, to be the best that we can be. And when we don't have good sleep, it impacts on everything that we do. And I know you founded the Sleep Well Clinic, which I'm really excited to hear more about in just a moment. But you said that you were living with insomnia, anxiety, depression, and chronic disease. And it was when you started to learn how to work with your sleep that you were able to deal with all of those things and sleep well as well. So managing your sleep obviously helped all of those things. And you said you trained in health and in sleep. So I'm really excited for us to take this time now to explore your story more. Tell us a little bit about your background, your training, and what led you to become this expert in sleep.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you for the opportunity. Actually, interesting. I realized my insomnia started because of stress and overwork. And then we'll talk a bit more about productivity, because I was hoping I'll be productive if I stay late every night, if I work hard, if I don't give myself a break, I can achieve more. I think it's just I'm intelligent a little bit now at the moment. We all want to do so much more. And it's in our culture, in our air that we breathe. We just don't want to miss on anything. So it was part of my problem, because I was involved with so many things. I was working full time. My boys were getting teenagers. And I was involved in the community thing, trust and helping. And quite often it was till 11, 12 o'clock, I'll be still doing something. Housework, or we had 3 bathrooms. My husband said, "You're crazy, it's time to go to sleep." And then and when you're running on adrenaline and then you are trying to go to bed, I'll hop into bed and I am completely awake, and for hours and hours I wouldn't be able to fall asleep, and then my sleep will be so short. Every few hours I'll wake up, and that for quite some time I kept going, because I will go to the gym, do a bit more workouts, just kind of keeping strong. But then my body started telling me, you can't keep going like that. It just has to stop. And that's when I realized I have to change something. And then and also when quite often along that comes our unhelpful, negative, anxious thinking. And when we're tired, under stress and not sleeping, our brain doesn't get rid of all the toxins. And it's just so much easier to start thinking negatively and anxious and even scary thoughts. You can end up, and I ended up being in a very dark place. Your thoughts kind of can take you too far. And then part of that, developing depression because of insomnia and anxiety, panic attacks. And I thought, how did I end up being here when I was a healthy, happy woman, when I've got a wonderful, loving husband and the children, and I was just like that. And even my GP was talking, you might need to go see a psychiatrist. And I thought, I got so scared about that. And then I thought, okay, it's just something, it really needs to be changed here. And then I kind of started researching, putting work into that, working on my thinking, my changing the way I think, reframing my thoughts. Even it's so much harder to do that when you are not well and not sleeping well. It's double work, I would say. So when you are well, that's what I recommend everyone learning to manage your thoughts, because they bring us emotions, and learning to kind of develop into healthy, helpful, and realistic thoughts. Quite often our thinking is so unrealistic and unhelpful. So that was two main areas I have to work on: my lifestyle, my sleeping habits, and my thinking, till I kind of started seeing progress slowly. And it's and then I noticed so many other women who struggle with very similar things of
Yes.
stress, insomnia, anxiety, and it just all comes as a package. You just have to
And
tackle
isn't it
all of that
interesting?
together.
It's a vicious cycle, isn't it? And this is obviously what you've experienced, and I know I experience it myself, is that when you're sleep deprived, it's the anxiety and the thoughts are worse, which it's a catch-22, because the more sleep deprived you are, the more anxious you are, or the more depressed you are. And it really heightens some of those emotions and sensations, which then in turn stop you from sleeping, because you've got so much anxiety and things going through your head when you should be sleeping because you're absolutely exhausted. But all of those thoughts and thinking stop you from sleeping as well. So it's just a vicious circle, isn't it?
I know, yeah. And you just have to tackle all at the same time in some ways. Yeah, you have to address it. Yeah.
So what was the first step for you, can I ask, in terms of why did you realize that it was sleep that you needed to address, in terms of to be able to deal those things? What made you aware of those things?
Waking up really tired and low energy, and feeling actually almost sick to my stomach because I was so tired and didn't have enough sleep. I just remember, especially on Mondays after a big weekend, getting up and going to work, I just felt so sick. I said, how did I ended up? And it's just so little energy. So I did realize that sleep is definitely, because waking up at night and not being able to fall asleep back. I did even my crazy thing. My husband still laughs at that when I couldn't sleep. Instead of kind of doing something calm, I'll be cleaning bathrooms. And that will keep me going for another few hours.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I mean, I don't know if you're like this, but I actually have to, and one of the questions I've got for you is how to prioritize. How do we actually prioritize
Yep.
sleep? For me, I set an alarm at 9 o'clock at night to tell me to stop, just to
That's
stop and
brilliant.
to
That's
slow
such a good
down.
habit. Yes. And I was going to talk about that. Just put an alarm. That's it. After that, you don't do anything. Time to unwind and time to put your bed routine into place. Yep.
So do you find that that's common? There's people like you and I that we would just keep going and going and going until something snaps in terms of our health or our well-being, because we're not prioritizing sleep.
Yes, you're completely right. I think it's just it's almost like pandemic, because we don't want, it's our wrong thinking, because we think we'll be productive, we'll achieve more if we sleep less, and if we have longer day we could do more. But actually it's the opposite. If you prioritize your sleep, then you're more productive. I was just looking at more and more research and studies and evidence that what kind of comes why sleep is so important for productivity. Because when you have a good night's sleep, you're more focused, you are more creative, you're able to solve more problems, you're more sharp, and you are kind of able to switch on straight away if you need. Just notice the difference when you had a bad night's sleep. It's like you're dragging, you're just so much effort to do something, and it takes twice as
As
long,
long,
and you
yeah.
miss things. Actually, I looked at some studies were done with some student athletes first in Stanford University, and they actually were forced for a couple of weeks to take a good night's sleep. And then they did studies on them, and I just realized that comparing to the other athletes, they were stronger, they were quicker, they were less chance for them to have a concussion or fall, and making less mistakes. And then also the same study was done on students at university, and they also found that they're more creative, they're more problem solving, they are more engaged, their grades are better when they sleep. But when you go to university and at the culture is, you see, if you see the students are tired, having a nap and sleeping, you think, well, that must be a good university because everyone is studying so hard and they're hardly having a sleep. Because it's a bit of a student culture that you get 3-4 hours of sleep. And people actually bragging about that I can get only with 3-4 hours of sleep and get away.
And it's an interesting, I think that there's this perception out there that highly successful people have less sleep or need less sleep. So it also almost becomes a bragging rights. Oh, I only need 5 hours sleep a night. And I can remember reading about Obama when he was in power, how he could only have 5 hours sleep a night. And you've got to wonder if that really is enough in terms of being able to function, and is he pushing himself to extreme, and what happens to our bodies if we go for extended periods of time with just short amount of sleep. I think there's, like the university, there is this culture, we're going to burn the midnight oil, we're going to stay up late and cram, and how effective is it really? Do you think there is a bit of a culture out there in terms of?
Oh, for sure, that's for sure. But just going back a little bit, the study also done that the best managers and the best people who are creative, I think they're the ones that have a good sleep. So you have 1 or 2 individuals who maybe okay on 5-6 hours, 5 hours of sleep, but generally it's just the people who have a good night's sleep. They can manage their time better and more productive. The questions you ask, is it a bit of a culture? Yes, for sure, because we kind of think that we can do better. We just don't want to miss out on anything. We just want to achieve more. And that's why, okay, let's stay up later and do more things late in the evening when it's supposed to be time to unwind and go to bed.
So can I ask you, Lana, what are the warning signs, do you think, in terms of when we've pushed ourselves too far or we're not getting enough sleep? What are the danger signs, do you think, to look out for?
I mean, it was in terms of the sleep, I would say it's just kind of when it takes you very long to go to bed. You are going to bed and you have racing thoughts because you didn't allow yourself to unwind or your mind to settle before you go to sleep, because you need to prepare your body and mind both before you go to sleep. So if you're going to bed and you've got racing thoughts, you didn't have the transition yet. So that's one of the first warning signs, because your brain just doesn't shut. And I quite often use this picture. It's like your computer with so many tabs open, like mine at the moment. You've got lots of open tabs, and it's just like your mind, this is open, I'm thinking about this and that, and just thought just cross, and you just, one thought comes after another one, and you just go, because you worked till very late, you didn't allow to unwind.
And so I guess if you use that computer analogy, what you're saying, and I've learned this as well, is that like your computer, you have to shut things down and let the computer wind down slowly. If I just switch the switch off on the computer to switch the power off, it hasn't had opportunity to shut down and process properly, which is going to cause problems. And I know too, when I was talking to you, I mentioned in terms of stress management and the correlation between that with sleep. There has been a number of times where I've talked to people with serious health problems, mostly with their gut, who have been people, and I've discovered in talking to those people that they've been on call. There've been people that have been on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So yes, of course they sleep, but there's a level of cortisol still in their system, enough for them to be able to go, Is that the phone ringing? I'm
Yeah.
on call. I need to be able to answer that and be able to function straight in that moment. And for them to be able to do that, they have to have just a little dose of cortisol in their system, which is, for those that don't know, is the stress hormone, which means that they're not getting that lovely deep sleep that they need to, like you said, reset their brain, download and rejuvenate and regenerate cells in order to do their job. So they've had significant health, like gut issues and all sorts of things, because they've worked for an extended period of time on call. So have you found that too, that people have had other long-term health issues by not having good sleep as well? You mentioned some of yours. Yeah.
Yes, and autoimmune disease. And autoimmune, it's one of the main causes of autoimmune disease. It's unhealthy gut, and that's where all our hormones develop, and that's how it's, well, we can talk a lot about the correlation between our gut and our brain, because it's completely it's such a big topic, and it's just so much connected to that. So for sure, yeah, unhealthy gut, and if it's been you've been running on adrenaline, having all the time, as you said, just a bit of cortisol, then it's just your gut weakened, and it just becomes like that allows to get all our big substances to get through our blood, when it causes inflammation and autoimmune disease. That's a big thing. Yep. And then adrenal fatigue, it's another thing, because it's connected with cortisol being on,
being produced all the time.
Yeah.
And I can remember years ago too, when I dabbled in skincare and selling skincare products on the side, I actually learned how when we go into that deep sleep, and the breathing regulates, and how our skin also, that's why you put night creams on, because our skin is also regenerating, and the cells are regenerating, and so that our breath and getting the oxygen and all those things that happen when we go into that sleep cycle, how important it is to have such good quality rest.
Especially our brain regenerates when we get more REM sleep, which is, we have like stages of sleep, but the more we have deeper sleep, that the better our brain regenerates. Yeah, and you're right, the skin looks kind of the best skincare in a good night's sleep, because you just notice, either after a nice walk in the fresh air or after a good night's sleep, your skin looks more fresh. And
oxygen, it's the oxygen, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what are some tips then for us to get a good night's sleep? What are some things that we can do to help us get a good night's sleep?
I think for me, what I did right, if you note for me, first of all, how to prioritize a good night's sleep, to change the mindset, to make that big shift in your mindset, that actually your good night's sleep will help you to be productive. Not to think the other way, that I'll stay late and I'll continue to do work, but actually start thinking the other way, that once I prioritize my sleep, I can achieve more. And then things, you kind of make an effort to put the other things into place, because you realize, yes, how it's important for you. Just quickly. Yeah, and if you're noticing kind of when you do have a good night's sleep and you have a productive, excellent day, so just kind of congratulate yourself and celebrate that, saying, yes, that was worth going to bed on time, and just have a good night's sleep and make it a priority. And as we said, maybe put the alarm clock at certain time. I don't know, for different people, it needs different time to unwind. So if you need a bit more, like an hour, so just put an hour, 9 o'clock, as you said, or 30 minutes, it depends how much time. Some women, it's funny, because when they realize it's time to get ready for bed, they start thinking about all the jobs.
Lana,
for the next day.
Do you know what it is for me? Like, I actually go to sleep about 10. I like to go to sleep about 10:30 at night.
That's the same.
And like that's why. And that's why I've got to have an alarm clock. I used to have an alarm at 9:30, but I had to have it at 9 so that I actually start to stop. And then by 9:30, I've actually stopped. And so that gives me an hour to try to just not think about work and think about all those things, as you said, all the things to do. So it gives me half an hour to think about.
Yes, that's good.
What
You know that you're a bit like that, then it's like, yeah, put half an hour earlier, because if you start thinking about, especially if you've got like children, younger children, like go to school, make sure maybe lunch boxes are made, any notice it needs to be signed or anything like that. It's funny because we joke with my husband, because when he said it's his time to bed, he's in bed. When I used to say my time in bed, another hour.
Yeah. And I think, I love what you said about reframing the way you think about sleep, because for me, I really have to go, I'm entitled to this. I deserve this. This is an investment into my business.
Yep.
Me getting that sleep means that I can function, and we know we all need it, but reframing it as an investment in me and in the well-being of my business. And it was a coach that said to me that unless when you're not healthy, your business isn't healthy. It's a direct correlation, because I don't value my own health. But when he put it like that, I went, okay,
yeah.
now
If
I'll
I want my
value.
business to do well, then I need to prioritize my health. You're so right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another tip was kind of, actually today I read some more research studies. We talk about the devices, and it is also one of the biggest, because probably the reason why we don't prioritize sleep, we just don't want to miss on anything, and because of that, stress and anxiety comes because of our overwork and not allowing ourselves to rest and relax. And the third biggest reason, because people are just addicted to their phones. And it's just, I read the research that it's not actually just the blue light that it slows down melatonin. They even done the studies on the people who had the night shift shelter on those on iPhones, and they still didn't sleep well. The reason they found it, it's because people are staying engaged and stimulated while using their phone. So that's probably the biggest reason why. Just stop using your phone maybe an hour before you go to sleep, at least an hour.
There's some interesting research. I'll see if I can find it for you, Lana, that came out of, I think it was out of Japan. And they found that the younger demographic was not performing as well in the workplace as some of the older workers. And part of the reason that they gave for not being able to be productive or to do their work efficiently was feeling tired. So they actually monitored their sleep to see what was happening with their sleep patterns. And interestingly, they found that on average, they were waking up every 2 hours and checking their phone and putting it back down again and going back to sleep. So they were primed to pick it up and check. So they were looking for notifications, or if they sort of stirred, their habit was to pick up their phone and look at it. And because it was so habitual, they were doing it in this half awake state, but it was meaning that they were not getting a good sleep, and they were overstimulated.
Even just a little bit, just try as an experiment with yourself. When in the morning or in the night you're tired, but then as soon as you turn on the phone and start reading something, you kind of seem, you're just like, it's a bit of coffee. It's like the same that they say, it's because dopamine the same releases when we are scrolling through the phone. So especially social media, it's if you'll get like caffeine. So it's just the same feeling. So if you want a quick wake up, just look at your phone.
That's true. I do that. Like if I'm feeling, it's so cold at the moment, no, I'm half asleep. If I stay in my warm bed and start scrolling through stuff on my phone, whether it be social media or emails or the news, within half an hour I'm wide awake, just like a cup of coffee. And then I can get up and out of bed. Yeah. So I totally relate to what you're saying. What is it about, what about, I don't know if this is a tip that you've got there as well, but the blue lights I know there's blue lights on our phone, but do you find also blue lights in the room, like power lights or alarm clocks? Are those things going to impact on our sleep as well?
They do, for sure. And it's nice, it's kind of, teach women is having like in your night bedtime routine that you can, if you can, that just turn off those lights and replace them with a softer light, like yellow light. It kind of signals to your brain that it's bedtime. It's like night light. I
Yes.
think I heard from you actually. You mentioned something about blue light, that actually the daylight, there's
Yeah,
blue light from your acting school. Did you?
that's right. So in film school, that's right.
Film
So when I
school,
was
yeah.
at film school, we learnt about the color temperatures and what you could measure the temperature of different lights. Like different lights have a particular reading. So, for example, some fluoro lights are more green. Some lights have got a warmer light, and we're starting to notice. You'll see, like my ring light that I've got. You can see it in my glasses
Oh,
there.
yeah.
It's got different settings on it. So one will be blue, one will be a warmer color. Now, daylight has a higher blue reading. And because what I was saying, what we talked about before is that melatonin, which helps you sleep, is triggered by an optic response. So when our eyes see blue light, when it stops seeing blue light, when there's no longer blue light being received optically, it induces melatonin.
Yes.
So it's the body's primal response, as in we're not a nocturnal species, we're a daytime species. It's that primal response of the sun has gone down, time for you to sleep. And
more melatonin is getting produced.
Yeah, so now the melatonin is being produced, but they say it takes up to 2 hours for that to fully kick in. And it makes sense. When the sun's gone down, it probably takes 2 hours afterwards. If you've ever gone camping outside, your body really adjusts to that really quickly and you get really tired. And it may only be like 7 o'clock at night or something, and you're thinking, oh, why am I so tired? It's because your circadian rhythms are tuning into that optic response to the blue light, which is why it's dangerous having it in our bedrooms.
That's right. Yeah, it's fascinating actually. Yeah, one of the other tips, it's actually having a bedtime routine, because that children actually are the best sleepers. And why? Because if we remember ourselves as being children, because we were really precious about the bedtime routine for our children.
Yes.
We'll make sure we'll start on time. We wouldn't go out anywhere. We'll want to be at home on time because it's time for them to give them a shower or a bath, to give them dinner, that they read them a book before they go to sleep, and then they know it's kind of their body and mind. It's time to go to sleep. We do it for children, but we don't do it for ourselves. So it's
interesting.
Like,
interesting, that shower too. I think there's a lot to be said for washing the day off you, having that sleep and washing the day off you.
And it also helps us to drop our body temperature, which is prepared for the actually adjust to the night. So when we sleep, the body temperature drops it. So and it's also relaxing. You kind of get yourself washing off and the day stuff and getting. It's interesting how people who really struggle mentally, always have chronic insomnia for a while. They sometimes we spend long times in shower, kind of to prepare them for sleep at that kind of transition, because it just calms and relaxes.
So we've got a few people that are watching us either in Zoom, that are participating in Zoom, or on Facebook. So if you've got any, we'll keep having a little chat for a little bit longer. But of course, if you've got any questions, please feel free to pop them. Ask any questions to Lana now about her sleep. You're welcome to pop them in the chat in either place, or of course, if you are watching this or listening to this afterwards, you can always ask questions and Lana can answer them as well. So while we're just finishing up, if you do have some questions, pop them in the chat. Lana, do you have any other tips for us any other tips to help us improve our sleep? Have you got any more on your lovely list there that you'd like to share with us?
I don't have it, but they're just always in my head, lots of them. I mean, usually for you having a healthy, good sleep, you need two things. You need to increase your sleep drive to have a healthy sleep drive. And sleep drive, you can get a good sleep drive if you're awake for longer periods of time. So it means you're getting up at the same time, for example, 6 o'clock, and you're going when you're sleepy. It means you're increasing your sleep appetite. And then the second thing that helps your sleep drive kind of to stay healthy and increase it, it's to exercise and being active. Just kind of live your normal life and exercise and get outdoors. And so those two things are really important that kind of build your sleep drive. And then if you are struggling with sleep, it means that there is some blocks that you need to remove, that it's either stress, anxiety, it could be lots of other issues. But yeah.
Lana, what do we do about those thoughts that invade us when we're trying to, we've talked about this at the beginning, when you're trying to go to sleep and then all those things race through your head. So if you've been really naughty, you haven't had you're overtired, you haven't wound down properly, and you've got all those thoughts racing through your head, what are some ways that you can deal with that to be able to get to focus on sleep?
I mean, it's the best thing to be proactive, and it's kind of, if you know, I had a busy, stressful day, it just set up some time, maybe in the afternoon before you go to your bedroom, or even in the evening, just before you got that bedtime routine. Just write down those things that are on your mind. Or you kind of, one of my partners, they just call in the business, she's called it the brain dump, and it's kind of you dump everything from on your brain. Like, actually today I had to do it with my son's kid. My youngest son had quite a few sick days, and I was actually didn't like ringing today at school and telling him he's sick. But he's a teenager and doesn't like kind of looking after himself. He's growing a lot, and he doesn't eat on time or regular healthy food. So hard to get any vegetables or anything into him. So he just sick day after sick day, and I really was worried. And I said, okay, this has to kind of to stop. What do we do? So I said this morning, because it's just my mind, and my husband away, I didn't want to call him and tell that my son is actually sick another day. So I wrote down, did a big spreadsheet, not spreadsheet, but a paper, and I said, okay, what are the things that probably causing him, like sickness, stomach, headache, and what he can do and what I can help him. So I kind of do some brainstorming. If you kind of worried about, stressed about something on your mind, it just work out strategies. Once you kind of work out strategies, then your brain think, okay, I know what I can do about that. I thought about that. We thought about that, worked out. So, and if you go to bed, remind yourself, I thought about that. I worked out some strategies. Well, I know what I can do, where I can help, look for help. And then it's time to sleep. Tell yourself, it's the rest will do tomorrow. So just reminding yourself that now it's time to sleep. I've done that work. So just being proactive and dealing with those stresses and putting in place into play. Yeah.
And it's interesting that you talk about the stresses, because what I found with the research is that there's obviously that primal part of our brain that is allowing us to respond to threat. So, you know, the fight or flight response, and it's the primal part of the brain it doesn't have language, it's not the rhyme and reason to things, it's a primal response. And so when we're going to sleep, what's happening is that primal brain is recognizing all the threats. If you don't do this, this is going to happen. So I found that and that's why all those thoughts come in. And so I found that speaking to that subconscious and that primal part of the brain, like you've said, helps me to stop that overthinking. So obviously dumping things out, but part of that is you're going, this is for tomorrow, not for now. And I found talking to my subconscious or talking to that part of my brain and saying, thanks for bringing it to my attention. Yes, I recognize that is a threat to us, but now's not the time to talk about that, brain. Now's the time to sleep. And just having that mantra of thanks, but not now, thanks.
Thanks, but not now. Yeah, I like how you say that.
Yeah, it speaks to that part of my brain to
you kind of recognize that it is there, Rishi there. You're not ignoring, and that's kind of sometimes it's the biggest thing when we do ignore it. It comes up in a stronger power. But yeah.
So writing it down and also speaking to it
to yourself.
It's acknowledging it, isn't it, rather than ignoring it? Because if we keep ignoring it, the primal part of our brain goes, don't ignore it. It's a threat. It's a problem. You have to deal with it. You need to say, no, tomorrow is when, yeah. All right, unless anybody else has got any, doesn't look like we've got any questions just yet. So I will leave that for now. But Lana, thank you for spending this time with us today to share your wisdom and to have a conversation about sleep, one incredibly important tool for us to be productive. I've learned lots in chatting with you and love to talk to you more about research. No doubt we'll keep talking about it as well. How can, Lana, before we finish, if for people that are listening and watching, if they want to know more from you, if they're struggling with sleep, what's the best way for people to get in contact with you?
So I've got my website, the Sleep Well Clinic for Women, but also my group, the Insomnia Support Group for Women. And you always can find me, Lana Tomkinson, on Facebook and can message me. But it's when I work with women, I just help them to see the bigger picture, because quite often you can get stuck on one thing, preoccupied with things, but not seeing actually how can turn your sleep around, that you can start sleeping well, what things you need to put into place. So it's just kind of, I take them by the hand and help them to see all those things and put those things into place. But just such joy seeing make women start sleeping better and enjoying their day and actually being productive and enjoying their family and loved one, because it's your relationship. We didn't even talk about that, but our relationship just really changed so much. We are so much happier and enjoy everything what we do when we have a good night's sleep. So you reach out if you need some help.
It's so important, Lana, and thank you for being available and making yourself available for women who are dealing with this. I certainly know, as I've mentioned to you, I've had clients that have come to me to help them with their productivity and their time management, but it's the sleep. The sleep is what's stopping them, and they really need an expert like you in order to be able to deal with that first, before we can even start to deal with productivity and time management, because it's so important to get those foundations right first.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yep.
Alrighty, thanks, Lana. Thank you so much. And yes, anybody that would like to, you can reach out to Lana, and I will definitely post in comments below where people can get in contact with you, and we'll talk again soon.
Very well. Thank you, Barbara.
Thanks, Lana.
Bye-bye.
Bye.